Yeah.
Exports for Vets, it's about the veteran, period. That's what it's for. It's to help the veteran with his transition back from the military back to civilian life, and also not only the transition, keeping a brotherhood alive.
Yeah.
The thing that led me to want to help veterans was a conversation with my late stepbrother, Chris Dana, who returned from Iraq in late 2005, and he was a gunner for the National Guard, and he was having daymares and all sorts of things. It was really obvious as a family member that life was different when he came back, and that not necessarily in a good way. And so I tried to talk Chris into doing something about what was going on in his life, and he just said that all other veterans were experiencing the exact same stuff, and that was his duty, and that was what he signed up for, and he was just going to deal with it. So he did, and it didn't work. And so that was a conversation that haunted me for years, while he was alive and then after he had passed away. What used to work for Chris wasn't working anymore. And so I think that's why he's gone. After Chris and I talked, I went down to California and I studied to be an occupational therapist. And then I was getting my doctorate there, and I was interviewing people who led difficult lives that it was hard to maintain a healthy lifestyle. And I realized that the people who can tell you what works are usually the people who've been doing whatever that is. And in the case of returning combat veterans, the people who know what the answers are the combat veterans. So I started, and since I was haunted anyways by what Chris had done and my lack of ability to help him, I just started interviewing combat veterans and asking them what is working. One of the veterans that I talked to was Jesse Skolin, and what Jesse shared with me about riverboarding all made sense from everything that I'd ever learned.
Wherever the V connect, come on, flat water.
I said the riverboarding saved my life, and it did, because it gave me a way to get back in the water, or get back into a high action, high paced environment. We didn't have any kind of bombs blowing up, or no helicopters hovering ahead, or any bullets flying by. It was more so just to get away from all that, and that's what helped me, is to go out into nature and to reconnect with, I don't know, whatever was going on there. It was just something more, and it just brought peace to me, while still having that adrenaline rush and still going and still having a mission and looking forward to something to do. It really saved my life and saved me from a dark road which I was headed down.
Jesse's experience on the river, it was like working with a little kid in the gym, only that's an adult now, and you take them out and you throw them around, and if it's big enough and bad enough, they come out of that and they're able to focus. And you see that with the veterans. You take them, we meet them in town, and they cannot carry on a full conversation. They're looking at every little thing around them. They see the birds 3 miles away. They see the leaves and the little bugs on the ground and everything I don't see. And they see all the danger in the environment, and they can't look in your eyes and carry on a complete sentence, much less a conversation. And so we go on the river, and if we're lucky and the water's big enough, they come back and they're at peace, and they can have a conversation, and they can even learn a little bit about neuroplasticity and why the experience they're having that day with Experts for Vets can be replicated, and they can continue having, and they can continue finding things that make them want to live again. And it's easy. It's like your brain can adapt. There's all these things, and we show them that, and I don't think it's something you can teach people. You have to show them.
How would I describe the experience of being out on the river? It's exhilarating, it's fun, but relaxing all at the same time. It's pretty cool. I like it.
Oh, riverboard down. Riverboard down.
By that point, you're just like, I'd rather die, than
Yeah,
be
no
in this
shit.
plane for one more second.
What's becoming clear over the years of research trying to understand how this disorder comes about is that the response to stress in a PTSD patient seems to be different. And it's different, at least in part, surrounding this hormone cortisol, which is released from the adrenal glands in response to stress. So because I'm interested in how cortisol affects the brain, I've become interested in how during these disease processes, how cortisol function may be different. So specifically with PTSD, what it looks like is the response of a PTSD patient to a stressful situation is different in that it seems to be blunted, that they don't release as much cortisol potentially as a non-PTSD individual. We also know that excessive levels of cortisol can be detrimental to brain function, and inadequate levels of cortisol can also be. So there's a range in which you need to have cortisol, and too much or too little can be bad. Voluntary exercise, and usually it's long-term voluntary exercise, that's strenuous to a certain degree, can increase the function of the adrenal, specifically its ability to release cortisol. Also, to some extent, its ability to release adrenaline. So after long-term voluntary exercise, your adrenals actually will get larger. It seems to me that these kind of strenuous but voluntary and controlled situations, to some extent, that they're things that really kind of push your adrenal, push your physiology in general. And it's possible that if these vets, if their cortisol system may be decreased in function, that this kind of exercise could help boost that function at the level of the adrenal gland. And then their responses to emotional stress, which happen a lot, might be more robust.
I don't know the chemistry behind it exactly, but I think getting back up to that super high speed that you were once at, it just helps you go about your day after you get done with that, because I don't know, there's a certain weight that's lifted off of your shoulders, maybe, but I don't know.
I think having an organization that involves veterans in stuff that's a little bit more extreme than most sports is a good outlet, because most guys coming back are still trying to get that rush that they had over in Afghanistan or Iraq. You just can't, once you've been shot at, what do? You shoot people, what else is there left? So I think a big reason that people are going down the wrong road is they just don't have an outlet for it. And I know I've seen a couple good documentaries and a couple good questions is, what's after this? What adrenaline rush, what high could you possibly ever find that beats fighting other people for your life? And extreme sports, it's not Afghanistan, it's not combat, but it's still fun, and it kind of takes you back, gives you a little bit of adrenaline high, so you can go jump off a bridge or do some skydiving or some trike flying, stuff you've never tried before. Because I think that they don't have that outlet, they don't have a place for that energy to go, so they do it, they drink, they fight, they fuck fat chicks, they do all kinds of stuff, So I think that having a group that takes people that are already prone to extreme sports and get them out there and actually doing it it's a great way to keep them from getting in trouble.
The extreme sports come into it with an adrenaline addiction is what I would put it as. A lot of combat vets coming back, when you're over there and you're in a heightened sense of awareness all the time, or you have adrenaline, IEDs going off, rounds coming in, you are definitely high on a drug that your body produces, and it is unlike any other thing I've experienced before. And just coming down off of it takes like 2 hours, 3 hours. So when you're doing an extreme sport, it's almost like kind of not reliving it, but getting that same fix to your body. I don't know how a crackhead, how they do crack, I'm not a crackhead, but I wonder if it's the same thing, because I like adrenaline now a lot. So I'm thinking that's probably, has to be something along the lines of that, I would think.
Yeah, with something as complex as the brain, when you're talking about somebody who's experienced a tremendous adrenaline rush, such as veterans have, the need to continue to engage in that type of an experience, a tremendous adrenaline rush, those kinds of experiences really can alter how the brain processes motivated behaviors, and it kind of sets a new bar for them in terms of what it is that will do it for them, right? And not just veterans, but anybody who experiences kind of extremes of normal behavior. Sometimes that will have a profound effect on how the brain is wired, and then subsequently lead them to engage in those types of behavior even more frequently.
The guy's name in particular. He's not here this year, but it was on our second to last trip, and one of our guides, Paul, who's not here anymore, he was a new guide, and I was kind of training him to be a riverboard guide. And I think this veteran, asked him, he was like, so what if I wanted to go face first into a rapid, actually face first without a riverboard? And Paul kind of was like, haha, that'd be funny, that wouldn't be cool. But right in front of me, this guy kicks ahead of me, and I'm like, what are you doing? I just see him push his riverboard right above Fing, one of the biggest rapids, out from under him all the way to the left-hand side of the rapid, meaning I couldn't really get it because there were rocks over there, and him just go head first into this rapid. And I was just like, are you kidding me? My heart stopped. I was like, no, really? I know you guys get all crazy, but it was fun, but I don't think I've ever screamed at a 35-year-old man the way I screamed at him, and I think I scared him a little bit, but learned his lesson, and it was entertaining a little. I've never known anyone to do something like that. It's really weird, but he enjoyed it. So yeah, that's probably one of the most interesting stories that I've had on the river with them. Good.
We got to find that happy medium in between, and that's what whitewater does for me. It keeps me out from fist fighting. It definitely keeps me from fist fighting, and we find that happy medium. We get all those guys out there, get them doing what they want, having fun, meeting each other. We're directing that energy in a positive direction. That's really what it's all about.
I think the best part of riverboarding was just going through it. It was a brand new experience for me. I didn't know what it was, and then watching everyone else either struggle or succeed like I was struggling and succeeding. So it was pretty awesome.
It's not just an opportunity to hang out with other veterans. It's more of an opportunity to experience that exhilarating rush you get when it used to be in a combat setting, which is pretty cool. You got that hours and hours of boredom punctuated with pure terror, and it's the guys next to you that actually count the most in the end. So it's kind of the same thing. You all have a bunch of fun, get that rush together, and then hang out at the end. It's the best part.
Right, you come back to America and you have those high adrenaline levels. You don't know what to do with them except go out, maybe party, meet girls, get in a fist fight, drive convertibles as fast as you can down Main Street. I mean, you get hurt, other people get hurt, and it's just a negative outlet for all that energy. So when we started doing extreme sports, you have all this adrenaline you have all this adrenaline that you're learning how to use in a positive way. You're out there having fun. You're not going to the bars anymore. You're not fist fighting. You're out there just having a great time, just meeting people. It's cool.
One of the byproducts that can happen when a veteran who has developed, let's say, a need to engage in the types of behaviors that will result in an adrenaline rush, one of the things that very well may be happening is that they're altering their opponent's process. And so once they're completed with the activity, there's a calming effect that the brain will exert for a period of time. And so is there a need to wean themselves off? I'm not sure that that's necessarily the case. It would really just depend on the individual. But if engaging in these types of activities helps him or her engage in their everyday life, it would seem like a productive outlet and a way to kind of manage the activities of their brain as it presents them.
What the fuck did I say about that? Oh man, it's a right kick in the pants because you get to experience that camaraderie and that brotherhood that you once shared with your brother on the battlefield. You know, it's like, hey man, we're going on a mission. We get to mount up right now. We get to go on the river. You know, we don't have to worry about no bullshit. You know, we don't have to worry about convoys or whatever. It's our convoy on the river. We're going to have fun and we're going to kick ass on this rapids and we're going to kick ass with our brothers out there, man. It's something special, something special.
To be able to have a productive, enjoyable social outlet for that type of need for an adrenaline rush, it seems to make perfect sense, yeah.
I think it's important to have a community with veterans because it's a pretty small group and it's a pretty select group. Not a lot of people did it. And, you know, the one thing I've found hard about getting out was just meeting people that I could tolerate. I mean, the general public, I think the only thing keeping a lot of them alive is the law. You know, if there wasn't rules and regulations, they'd probably get stabbed more often than not. So it's just really good to meet a small community of veterans because you can always connect with them. No matter where you go or what they did or what you did, you always have that connection that you just will never have with anybody civilian that hasn't been where you've been.
Feels really good. Like you don't have to try and be somebody you're not. You're not uncomfortable anymore. Like I don't like going out in big groups with like civilians or like other people I don't know, or after Iraq I don't like it, period. And going and doing it with other veterans, those walls are completely broken down. Like they're no longer there. Like it's like you're immediately talking to another friend and someone who could be feeling the same way you were or are. So it's like two peas in a pot type thing. You're like, oh, you don't like big groups either, loud bangs anymore and stuff like that. 4th of July is not your favorite holiday anymore, and yeah, so that's how I feel with it.
Or can I help?
You can help find the wetsuits.
Wetsuits? Oh. Well, I guess you won't be. No one's probably wearing my size, so I don't know that.
Without the interaction, it's like you're in a room full of people, but you don't know anyone, and so you're alone. But once you find out those veterans are there, you have people that got your back.
Generally, I don't. I mean, there is some select friends that I hang out with, but generally, as a rule, my most trusted friends are all veterans.
Why is that?
I think it has to do with just guys being able to relate with what you are, who you are, what you've been through, and you can't really get that from the civilian side. I mean, I don't judge civilians for that. It's just that the people that I can get along with most are the ones that have been through the same thing I have.
I think that with the counseling that I was going through, or still am going through with the vet center, like it only gets you so much. Like it's basically more of just how you would blow off steam at some point. Like it's just, something you can tell a counselor, nobody else that you want knowing, the stuff that's going on inside your head, or your issues that you got. The exports for vets, it's more of like the military side again, where you get the camaraderie and the brotherhood, and like you get to hang out with your brothers, not to mention just like the same stuff that was in the military. Like you guys pull pranks on each other. Like there's a lot of filthy words spoken, just stuff like that. I don't know, it gives me a sense of belonging again, is the way you could put it.
Okay. Exports for vets. It's a form of therapy on the river. It's like a peer counseling I like to use. We all have a lot of things we've gone through that other people haven't, but you can see that they're headed down that path. We can talk to them, we can help mold them into the positive individual that they can be in our community, in a community in Missoula. A lot of veterans don't realize that they're just sitting at home so much, just being depressed, or again, never wanting to hang out, never meet anybody. You can't let that be going on. We can save those guys. We can get them out here. They want to. Everybody wants to do an extreme sport. I don't know anybody that doesn't.
I think it's definitely really helpful to have a community of people, because all we know about group theory and social theory is people are more likely to do something if other people in a group are doing it, and especially if it's difficult or scary. I mean, they use that as part of military training, is how you get new recruits to, go down a cliff or go down a slide for life. And I think the same theory holds true for treatment, why group therapy is so effective, because other people in the group who might not want to speak out, they'll hear someone say something, maybe 2 or 3 people will talk, and then they'll say, oh, maybe I'll add my 2 cents in here. So if you tried to take people individually and get them to participate in these extreme sports, they would probably focus on all the dangerous aspects of it, or might even not want to participate at all. But if you see 2 or 3 people go down the rapids and they look like they've survived at the end of the day, that's usually enough to have someone think, oh, maybe I can do that as well. Especially if you see someone that might have a physical limitation. You say, oh, well, that person has a partial amputee and they went down, and here I am, I have all my limbs, and although I'm really scared, I think I'm going to do it as well.
By the time they're off the river after they've had their adrenaline going, they feel more comfortable rapid after rapid. They're usually just as loud, if not louder, than the other guys.
I freaking went upside down, flipped off my board. Supposed to hang on, man. I did. I was holding on to the fucker. Just me and it were underwater. Yeah, it's all good. No, but other than that, it was like kind of all the same shit, cool. Basically. But Fang was weak, but the other ones were all right.
Your mom was weak.
Good. Let's say that, she fucking knocked you out.
Mom, fuck, beat your ass.
No, she
Don't
does,
you ever forget that.
She doesn't pull hair, man. She punches. Gave me a dead arm in high school once. Fucking sucked.
So it's true that there are other short-term programs, or even other weekend retreats that are limited and maybe not even be specific to addressing post-traumatic stress, just other kind of fun, extreme sport environments. And while that can be really helpful and can help people form relationships over a weekend, the fact that this program runs for 6 weeks really provides more of a chance for relationship building, for more intimate conversations to take place. If you're seeing someone continuously for 6 weeks, you might be a little bit more open to sharing with them something that you're struggling with. This is really important for veterans who may be experiencing post-traumatic stress symptoms, because something that comes along with that is issues around trust and mistrust. And even if they didn't have that as a problem before, they may have difficulty opening up about something that they're ashamed about. So whereas you can maybe hide out in a weekend retreat and act like everything's fine, over 6 weeks, you have the opportunity for people to get to know you and for you to get to know others, and feeling much more comfortable sharing, things that you're struggling with.
It's better than counseling. Cheaper. Jewish jokes are funny, I guess.
Why is it better than counseling?
Why is that? Yeah, everybody like sitting in there talking to some dude about their feelings, like really? No.
Yeah, no, the circle jerks.
How does that make
you feel?
Exactly. How does that make you feel? Yeah. How the fuck do you think it makes me feel? You know what I mean? Like, no, this is way better when you're hanging out with a bunch of guys who've been through the same shit you have. Yeah, everybody accepts you.
Sort of. We only accept people.
Only
face
face
I don't know about him
acceptance. On your back.
But it's good. Where else are we getting like a group of veterans where we can like talk about this shit, you know?
Yeah. It's the most I've seen in one group since I've been.
It's the what?
It's the largest group of vets I've been in close proximity.
Right.
Well, one thing I like about the military was the camaraderie, and that's definitely here.
Yeah, it brings the camaraderie back, the family feeling, kind of.
Yeah. Yeah,
That's always good.
Exports for Vets helps redevelop that trust, I think, by the activity that we talked about and the fireside session afterward. It gives you a chance to open up and listen to other guys. In the end, I wish there was an absolute answer, but I think it just gets you back in the habit of the guys that you were with, who you endured whatever with, to now you're back and you realize that there are other people out there that you can trust, even though they weren't with you. They weren't that group of guys, that group of soldiers or airmen or whatever. It just takes time, and it takes the right experiences to get you back to trusting other people. And just the same way, unfortunately, the wrong experiences can just make it worse.
Then we got these for Trevor and Jesse. Some otter boxes.
Hey.
Yeah. Josephine doesn't get anything but a card. And this knife. Pass it down.
Engraved with your name on it. I got it.
We get it up close.
Oh, wow. Holy shit. That's nice.
In the military, we give, when people get out of a unit or they take off, whatever, a lot of times they'll get them like a knife. It's like engraved stuff or like a flag or something. So.
You don't like them.
At least in the Marines they do that.
See ya, fuck you. We don't like you.
Use that thing. Don't just stick it on the wall. That's to be used.
Yeah, I'm going to use it.
Okay, good.
Just gonna kill a hobo with it. Find a child.
Yeah. Thank you guys.
Shit up in there.
It's awesome.
Make sure to leave it at the scene of the crime so we're implicated.
Exactly.
Oh, Lord. It's sticking out of the temple of the hobo.
God, that would make their investigation. Just so how many people have been involved in this at one point at what time? Could you? Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
No, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
We'll see you all next year if I'm here.
Where else would
Why
you
wouldn't you be anywhere else?
Talking about guys that have been home for a while and been home for a very short period of time, I think it is a great perspective piece for somebody who's been home a few months, who still maybe doesn't even realize some of the stuff going on in his head, and guys that have been home a long time who've been dealing with it, helping them recognize that, helping them realize that this is not forever, that whatever's going on in your head can be fixed, can be better. I think that's something that I did see in a couple of guys as they get to a point where they feel pretty hopeless that it's ever going to get better. And I think that is a big thing that our program can give with the variety of people we have, that it can get better. We have examples of it in people that have been in the course.
I see Exports for Vets as really being able to help these people on a number of levels. So I think that just getting these people together, because these are people who've had similar experiences, they know how much each other's lives have changed since being exposed to the trauma. They know the kinds of symptoms that they're all experiencing and how difficult this process is. So that very basic interaction is great for these people. But at the same time, what you're doing is you're starting to engage with the exercise, with the intense kind of psychological focus and team type event. You're also activating the physiological response that could actually be helping correct some of the underlying physiological problems that we think may underlie PTSD. So the support group, but also then the intense exercise that is voluntary and really stimulating in a way that that these vets have become used to because of their experiences. So I think it really has the potential to really help these people on a number of levels, both at the brain and in the physiology of the entire body.
Man, I don't know. I think it's more so it's a very personable account with the river and with nature, and they just get to experience that one-on-one. You know, you don't have to rely on a group really to take you down the river. You going by yourself. You know, it's your mission to get down there. You got to police yourself up. You know, and you know, just the same on the battlefield. You know, and it's just, yeah, it's just a good. It's a good togetherness, a good unit.
Just something I look forward to doing, hanging out with military people. It seems everybody's got the same ideas, or not ideas, but kind of act the same. It's fun. I really don't know how to exactly say it. Like, why go and do it on the river with everybody? It's almost like being in the good part of the military, you know, without putting up with the BS or whatever. You get the good parts without the bad parts, and that's why I'm doing it.
The thing about Exports for Vets that I've seen is it works better than it should. I mean, it works better than it logically should. I knew that it would help people. I knew that it would help rebuild their images of themselves. I knew that for tough men and women that signed up for combat, that did all these things, introducing them to adrenaline sports that they could do back home and guides that they could respect in the civilian world would be good. But it's more than that. I mean, it honestly is. If you look at in some of the veterans' eyes that come back, and the level of peace that one can find through doing this program is it's unbelievable to me.
I feel awesome and tired. The water's perfect. Great day to be out with veteran buddies. Having a good time. And the key to everything, water. Whew. How do you feel?
So these are people who have already selected out to be in a career that involves a commitment from their physical body and also a relational component. And where other programs may provide one or the other, certainly there are a lot of programs that provide the community aspects of being in groups or participating in volunteer activities or other kinds of programs that address that relational aspect. The fact that this program combines the physical aspect and the camaraderie required and the challenge required to participate in the physical activity and the over the 6-week period of time, the relational aspect, I think it's really that combination that is what sets this program apart from other programs that are similar or might have little pieces of this program.
Yeah, too far to the right, just barely though. I was like freaking 6 inches off. Sucks. Does anybody want to? Okay.
We're not taking over the role of the vet centers or the VA centers that provide formal counseling. We're not doing formal counseling for veterans on the river. We're providing a support system. We're providing a family that allows veterans to be comfortable, fully comfortable with themselves and their experience as much as I think is possible, where they don't have to self-edit. We're providing that, like an opportunity to stop self-editing your comments so that you don't have to worry about offending anyone if you talk about killing, guns, explosions, or anything like that. There's no worries about that.
That fucking made me pucker, dude. Like,
240 millimeter?
Yeah, one of those Iranian 240s, dude. It fucking made me pucker. Like, you feel.
You can hear them coming in.
Well, they just, like, our base got hit. Like, we got hit. Like, our base got hit. They just, like, dude, you can hear a sucker coming in, man.
Yeah, it sounded like a freight train coming in.
It did. It scared the shit out of me.
I never had to deal with that stuff.
Every time we left the wire, we were getting shot at. But it was funny because we'd button up in the tank and it was like ping, 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 ping. Fucking AK rounds just sound like someone's outside with a ball peen hammer on the tank and we're just laughing. Yeah, I was a dumbass tanker, man. I was a turret plug. They made us wear IBA while we were in the turret. I had to strip all the magazine pouches off so I wouldn't get stuck in the damn hole. I couldn't wear my back plate, so.
Exports for Vets helps that because we're in there, we're peer counseling each other. I'm telling fight stories at the thing and telling what my buddies did, and like telling these young guys, they don't know about PTSD. Like, they haven't had the experiences that I've had, that I can see, that I've seen for over the past 8 years. They don't know what's going on with that kind of stuff. And being out there with exports and us bonding and peer counseling with each other, being on the river, we can talk. It's not the same as being on a chair in an office. That's lame. Nobody wants to do that. Even if it's 10 of you sitting around a table, nobody wants to do that. That sucks.
That's what we did last week.
I want to be on the river, making commentary with people, having fun, chilling, learning from each other, making friends, going out and doing positive things. The more people we got in our group that are doing positive things, the faster it spreads. The easier it is to take it in a positive direction.
Oh, soldiers, Marines, airmen, anybody coming back with PTSD, TBI, or a lot of the things that, this war's produced. Well, past wars have had the same things. These are now just more of, like, it seems like the doctors are starting to actually put terms on, like, PTSD, TBI. Somebody with PTSD or TBI, they don't, in my case, I don't want to open up to anybody that obviously you don't trust or anything. Even a VA counselor, VA doc, VA anything. The only thing I know is that they're paid to come to work, and that's it. Like, that's their job. If they, if they work somewhere else, same thing. The veterans that I hang out with, it's completely different. They don't get paid for it. They don't, no money. They don't want anything. They just, they're your brother again, and you feel safe. Like, they understand you. They want to help you. Like, if they see you falling or you need help, they will help you. But one of the best things that you can actually, it seems like, do is just actually be there and being a friend and understanding. The doctors and counselors that don't understand, they just go ahead and write your prescriptions or do whatever, and you walk out of that room feeling like you just got bent over without Vaseline again. Like, how the hell is this helping me at all? And then you talk to your buddies and everything that seem like they're getting the same treatment, and I don't know, you guys just band back together again, and that's what it seems like what's going on.
The camaraderie from Exports for Vets is, you just feel comfortable. You feel more, I felt more myself, and sitting on a couch talking to someone asking you to explain what you're feeling and figuring out how you feel it's like running through a maze. You just don't know when you take a corner if you're going to hit a dead end or not. It's not comfortable. It's more a job than anything else.
There is absolutely no substitute for even a neuroscientist in terms of trying to understand how the brain is working than it is to talk to individuals who have found things that worked, for instance, in reducing their PTSD symptoms. And so it's such a complex disorder that we really cannot ignore the positive effects that have happened for certain individuals, even if it's engaging in other extreme activities.
All right, guys. Tight spacing. Tighten it up. Better get over.
A lot of times, programs that offer a person a bridge to treatment may be the only way that they can engage. So for some people, it will be an important complement. They may be already engaged in taking medications or going to psychotherapy, and this kind of helps them to supplement their social life, help them to feel that they're participating in something that is important to them. But for those people who are skeptical about medications, who don't want to be labeled as a mental health patient, who just have a lot of barriers to seeking care, the environment of being around other people, there might be one or two people that have really had a positive experience, even with a specific provider or with a specific medication, and there's a lot of information sharing that this environment could provide. So, you know, to be honest, if you're not going to get any treatment at all, participating in this program is probably better than nothing. So in that sense, it might serve as a substitute. But if you have severe post-traumatic stress symptoms, you're probably going to need more than just this to recover. But it's hard to determine in advance who's going to really need treatment versus who's going to recover on their own. So what I really like about this program is that it creates an environment where people can be exposed to a lot of different options, and then they can move forward in their engagement. So if you were skeptical about medications, you might be more open to it. You can talk with a colleague or a peer who has a personal experience with it. It's much different than if a doctor's telling you should take this medication.
Well, we're a society of pill pushers and pill poppers. Doctors would rather have you pop a pill where they get an endorsement through a pharmaceutical company, whether, in regards to, hey, why don't we do real treatment, have people go out and do real things to where they get real results, but it's easier and people make more money when you can just push a pill. That's my opinion on it. So I'd rather go out and have develop constructive relationships with other people and for my form of treatment than pop in some stupid pill that's made in some perfectly sterile lab environment that's more pure than heroin. That's my choice.
What we tend to be doing is treating a lot of the symptoms of the disorder, and that's because that's what we know how to do with pharmaceuticals. They can be effective. Many times they're not very effective. And so what we'd like to be able to do is understand what are the things that put people at risk for PTSD, if there are differences individually, or what are the underlying causes, and how can we influence brain function and physiology without pharmaceuticals to try to kind of get at some of these symptoms. And what we know with exercise, that it's a really good antidepressant as well. And so while it's helping these vets to cope with their PTSD symptoms, we know that it's at least as good an antidepressant as Prozac. There are studies all over the place showing that voluntary exercise has a massive antidepressant effect. A support group also very potent antidepressant. If you have a support group of individuals who have similar experiences, life experiences, it's extremely important in coping with things like depression, drug abuse as well. So I think that these kinds of non-pharmaceutical interventions, if they work, that's fantastic.
Well, in order to assess the impact that a program such as Extreme Sports for Veterans would have, the best way is to ask the veterans themselves. I think the brain is so complex that there's no substitute for actually talking to the individuals themselves. We're not in a position to understand how the brain works to the degree to which that there would be a better substitute. So asking them what they're getting out of it actually has an interesting product in that understanding brain function is so much in the infancy stages that a lot of times we as neuroscientists actually learn more and can shape our own thinking by discovering how certain things such as your program interacts and how it impacts veterans. And so principally I would ask them what it is they're getting out of it.
Yeah, I've been down the road for, medications and counseling, and that's all good, but if those things work for you, but it didn't work for me at all, and I felt like a zombie after all the medications and all the pills that they gave me, and that's the last thing I wanted to do, is become a zombie after I come home, is to wanted to be locked up in a house that didn't go anywhere and just isolate myself. And this just gives me a chance to break free from that isolation, and it's very healthy.
I'd say one of the benefits to the community as a whole for our group is anytime you have a group of veterans or even an individual who is struggling with everyday life, it is going to affect the people around him. It's going to affect his work, his family. If he overreacts to something, it could cause whatever to happen. We're hopefully preventing that. We're making it so these guys have outlets. They have friends they can call. They know somebody who will, if they're having a tough moment, that is somebody they can call and they'll show up and they'll help them out. Or ultimately, what everybody wants is to get to where that's not the case anymore, when you can just deal and move on. That's maybe a more long-term goal. Exports is probably the beginning of that process, not the end. But I think the biggest thing it does for our community is gives those veterans somewhere to go, which is going to make them better members of the community.
Certainly, if you have a set of people who have gone through this program and are now more optimistic about their future, less burdened by symptoms, and feeling that they can kind of participate back into their civilian life, that's a huge benefit to the community, because most of the veterans are young and all of their contributing years are beyond them. And so the community really needs to have success stories more so than some of the challenging stories that might be publicly advertised.
Right. Building a community of veterans helps civilian society, their community also. Perfect example, Clark Fork River cleanup. I always wanted to do a cleanup. I've never been involved in a river cleanup. I've never even gone down and picked up trash within a group or anything. And I was like, Clark Fork needs to be cleaned. It needs to happen. Somebody needs to do it. So I totally organized an entire river cleanup, and we got a couple thousand pounds of trash out of the river. It was awesome, and that's all it takes is a little initiative. That's all. And once we have 90% of the people that showed up were our veterans that have been hanging out and doing stuff. I mean, they loved hanging out and just doing stuff, snorkeling, freaking talking, learning about each other. It's great. And in the end, the community's always donating to us. They love to donate to veterans. They're always very respectful, and they're super cool. And we can't just always be expecting to take from the community and never be giving back. We can't ever do that. Not one bit. In fact, we need to be the most responsible about it, because we are the most responsible.
Right now, like I do volunteer work, and it's the thing in my life that actually gives me, fulfillment again. Money's not really that big of a thing to me anymore. Sure, you got to pay your bills and all that stuff, but other than that, it's actually helping your fellow human again.
I think the benefit of exports, building a community like that in Missoula, to the community itself, and fighting that isolation and those kind of things, is because we are members of society. I mean, we are some of the hardest working, most productive, absolutely patriotic members of society. And, exports, building that community, helping us not to isolate, helping us to get back out into the community and give back. And not just give back to each other while we're going down a river, but to give back to the community, to do river cleanup, to do those kind of things, be active. I talk a lot about fighting isolation, but really what it comes down to is just being active in our communities again, feeling like it's important. A lot of combat vets will come back, and I did the same thing. A lot of combat vets will come back and say, the most important thing I've ever done in my life, I just got back from. Some of these people got 60, 70 years left in their lives, and they want to feel important. They want to feel needed. They want to feel like the community needs them. And I think exports, building that community, is able to do that with not just jumping in the river and going down the river, but just being able to educate the community on what it's like to be a combat veteran. Very important piece, right? But also just the things that they can do. I mean, if you can get 40 veterans together and they can go clean up the river, I mean, think about what that can accomplish. The military, we are trained in the military to be very efficient at what we do in very short periods of time, normally. Lunch is at 11:30. It's 10:30 now. You got to get that Connex cleaned out. We'll be at lunch by 11:30, and the Connex will look good. So it's the same kind of thing, and I think that's extremely important with the community.
So given the disconnect between civilian and military culture in society today, there's something really interesting that could also come about from having a group of veteran populations in the same area as civilians, such as what might occur if you're using an outdoor physical space. And that is that I think civilians will probably learn a little bit about the special aspects of selfless service, loyalty, commitment to others, that is just a natural part that people in the military may take for granted. And so I think the example of some things that have happened as a result of the program in Montana is evidence of this, such as when the veterans spontaneously decided that they wanted to give back to the community and participate in cleaning up the area. That's not surprising to someone like myself who's familiar with military culture, with military individuals and with veterans, but I can imagine that a civilian might be particularly surprised by that, and that might also create another opportunity and a bridge for further community development. And again, it kind of goes to that idea that these environments are things that are bringing out the best of people and not just focusing on their limitations or their symptoms or their impairments. And by creating that expectation that we're here to have you stay in touch with the best of yourself and to nurture and foster that part of yourself, I think that veterans and civilians alike will respond to that and rise to the occasion.
Basically, I just want to see where, how it's going to keep continuing to grow, and all the other different ideas with all the other veterans bringing it up, the mountain climbing, and then also our nonprofit organization, just going and helping out other organizations, just doing volunteer work for the city, car washes, whatnot. It's just, it's good to give back.
I believe that if you help your veteran community, they will help you back tenfold, because they signed up to go to war for the people, their families, their friends, their community. This is what they want to do, is to come back into the world and help. And this is a super beneficial way to do it.
I think that all sports, there's a lot of individual group sports that have value. I think where exports goes from here is really going to be hard to see. I think riverboarding's awesome because it applies high level of adrenaline, great time, and it's relatively easy on the joints. So for people that have been beat up overseas, it's not going to hurt your back. It's not going to hurt some of those other things. But I think that really the combination of a great time in the outdoors and maybe with a little bit of excitement mixed in.
Yeah. Some of those guys went into that, I think. I think so. That thing is fucking huge right there, huh?
Exports for Vets is cool because when you get into the civilian life, you forget about your leadership abilities that you learned. You forget about how to lead large groups of people. You forget that it can be done in the civilian world, and it totally can. It can. We still have leadership. We have teamwork. We have camaraderie. We want all that stuff. We went through the military loving. That was some of our freaking main things that we loved that kept us united. And you lose that when you come back to the civilian world. And Exports for Vets brings that back. It brings that community back to us. And it makes people want to unite. It makes them want to do stuff. It makes them want to go riverboarding. It makes them want to clean up a river. It makes them want to have barbecues and have fun and meet each other's families. And there's none of that going on right now. And there needs to be more.
The reason I think that everybody that participates wants to help, wants to be a part of it, is because after that first time, you find something you've been missing. Especially for the guys that are no longer in the military, which is my understanding the vast majority of them. You find a part of you that is gone, that you can't find anymore, because the camaraderie, I think, is the big part of that. And guys feel that missing gap filled, and then they want to help other vets do the same thing. They want to get to where every vet has that problem fixed. You have the camaraderie, you have the people around you, and the more the merrier.
When you are sick and when you're stressing, you're thinking about yourself. And when you're thinking about yourself, you really aren't looking at other people. When you step outside yourself, and you want to help others, then you actually can make a difference in other people's lives. You know, they say it's better to give than to receive, and it's really true. In human emotion, when you are giving to others and helping others, it's much more valuable than just helping yourself. I've done a lot of work in alcoholism, for instance, and one of the things that I know is that an alcoholic is always thinking about himself, thinking about the next drink, thinking about who's his friend, who is not. But when he truly steps outside of himself and tries to get involved and tries to help others, maybe it's just getting a dog, getting a pet, and doing some good dog therapy, that really is the beginning of recovery. So if you're seeing vets who are coming back and saying, how can I get involved, how can I help others, hugely positive.
I believe that the reason why people want to get involved with exports is because it's something, number one, it's something that's local, and it makes you feel a part of the community and a part of a veteran program, and it's just a blast. Like, extreme sports for veterans, like, who would have thought? Especially doing it at least once a week, it's too good to be true. So
well, when people have been helped by something at their point of need, I think it kind of inspires a natural wish to give back or keep something going. And I think it's certainly a history that the people that developed this program can be proud of, that it's basically self-sustaining. The people that have gone through it were so impacted by this positively that they now want to be a part of keeping it going and expanding it. And I think a lot of this does have to do with this, just the military culture in general, whether it's, leave no man behind or, take care of your buddy. I think that the fact that that people are staying so engaged is evidence that it's really helped them in a personal way, that they're willing to take the time to volunteer and expand the program. And I would expect that to continue as the program goes on, and because I think that it's something that's really kind of lacking in terms of opportunities for veterans. There are a lot of groups, from the government to clinical groups to other nonprofit agencies that have a mental health orientation, that are really trying to figure out how can we best help this massive amounts of people that are coming back, trying to get back into their normal civilian life. And a lot of people don't have answers as to what's the best approach.
I think it gives anyone that tries that out a sense of purpose. They're like, wow, crap, it's not just about going out and going riverboarding or doing some kind of extreme sport. It's about helping out that other guy, especially the younger guys that are just getting out, because we know what it was like. Because I've been out for 7 years, and it's a little overwhelming. And to be around other guys that have been through it, it just kind of grounds you. It gives you some kind of, it's like a grounding rod. It's the only way I can explain it.
Well, I think any treatment that having someone maintain a treatment or stay on a treatment really depends on it being beneficial, right? If there are side effects, if there's no noticeable improvement, then it's really hard to get someone to stay on a treatment. So I think that the vets who stay in this program are staying in this program because it's helping them. And so it's a very positive sign that that they maintain this activity and these networks. That this means that it's working for them in a way that possibly other treatments may not be. And so I think it's really telling that people are maintaining this relationship with extreme sports for vets. That it's working for them.
Well, it's just like anything else. If you don't keep at it, you can't keep it going. So why I choose to help out as much as I can is because I really want to see this go up. I want to see more people get involved. I want to see it grow and maybe, just get a little bit bigger than it is right now. I mean, it's great to have just the small group that we do, but I think if we could blow it up a little bit, really help us out with some funding and getting out there for people.
I'd say it could go into any community, anywhere in the nation. Wherever there's a river around with a little bit of incline to go downhill, or anything with exports for vets, really, because you can jump out of an airplane, you could go fly a plane, or, man, there's so much stuff. We're just on the brink of discovery into the extreme aspects of the world or nature in that, because I think nature is the key in this whole equation to get back into what the earth has provided for us here.
1, 2, 4. Jump.
For me, it was rewriting that conversation for another sister, and only this time it's not the sister who has to do the hard work, it's the river. The river does it, and Jesse Skolin does it, and they show those veterans what they need to know. And that was it. So I was just rewriting that conversation. And the amazing part of it is that I'm no longer haunted at all by that, because when I think about Chris and his life, I also see one of his Iraq battle buddies on the river on a sunny day with a big smile on his face. And Chris is okay when that veteran is out there living life and loving it. then my stepbrother's at peace. And in my heart, and I think he really is. Like, I think he kind of worked through this program to help his own buddies. So that's all it is.
There's some people, you know, like there's some fellow comrades that, you know, that taken their own lives over the past couple years and a couple recently. And, you know, if they would have had this, if they would have known about it, they might have had something to look forward to, and they might have been living today if they would have known about this. They might have been living today.
With Exports for Vets, though, the nice thing is you don't have to shake them, because the river does it for you. And if you know, if the water's big enough, then there's nothing out there but the river and yourself, and it makes them want to live again.
All right.
How much do I miss being on the river? A lot. I'm a river rat. I have river water in my veins. So I like to be on the river. There's less people there. Nature's the best cure compared to anything. Nature and other people. Yeah, I need to get back on the water.